Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be for this week of Big Brother 22, or as we like to call it, All-Stars, allegedly an All-Stars season, even though it's not really, feeling like one these days, but apparently this is an All-Stars season, episodes 5 through 7, and joining me once again, we got another stacked panel here. First of all, she is someone that is my rival in BigBrotherRandom.org games that we play together, but she also is very insightful and intelligent. I'm going to hype her up for a second because y'all should know her. Here is Melisa.
Oh, I appreciate the praise, Kevin. Maybe actually we'll stop being rivals.
Exactly.
But thank you for having me. This is fun.
Of course. Next up, we have someone who is supposed to be in the house right now, but she's actually here on this video. We have not Janelle Pierzina, but Aliel Pierzina.
I love that intro, and thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And also joining us later will be Sam Baum. But after his insight last week and all of his comments and basically being a part of the show last week, I knew I had to get him on this time. So here we have the very insightful and very intelligent as well, Ivan Ortega. What's up?
Hey everyone, I'm so excited. There's a lot to talk about for this week.
Oh yes, indeed. So we'll just get into right now. Look, we're supposed to be in a Big Brother All-Star season, but I think we can all collectively agree this feels anything but that at this point. Yeah. This is not delivering in the way we wanted to, and it's unfortunate because there's a lot of potential. There was a lot of potential here, and unless something changes in like the next 2 weeks, it seems like this is what this season is going to be. Very basic, very mid-tier level gameplay. Nobody really fighting in the way that they want to. And it's very disappointing. But I think the first thing to really talk about, because, I mean, we have to bring it up, is Memphis's HOH train, which, look, Cody's was not good last week, but it's nothing like Memphis's quite is, which is just so problematic and so all over the place. And Ivan, I'm going to start with you. I know you had some really interesting insights last week. What did you think of Memphis's HOH train this week?
Yeah, I was very interested to see his HOH. And initially, when the season started, I was really interested to see him because it's just been so long. And, you know, he was Dan's right-hand man, basically. And so it was just very interesting to see him back. But during his HOH, since it was the first time he won his HOH, he just got swallowed in this power. He went on a power trip, and
it was like a Devin level HOH.
Yeah, he made some decisions that were probably not right for his game. He pissed off a lot of people during that whole week. So I mean, I don't know. Like for now, he is safe with the current HOH, but leading to the next following weeks, who knows? Like maybe that will come and bite him in the ass.
Yeah, it was very disappointing to see. I think there are a lot of things that he did wrong this week, but the thing that perplexes me the most is throughout the entire week, he seems to, not only is he just so haphazard with everything he's doing, he seems to have virtually no idea what he wants to do as HOH, which begs the question, Melisa, why did he even go for it in the first place? You know, like it didn't really make much sense at all for him to even go for that HOH, I feel like.
It doesn't, but it feels like maybe he had that fire underneath him. Like, finally, let's get the win. I forget what the competition was last week. Oh, the
looking at the videos,
the trivia one, but like with the video. So it kind of was crap shooty in a way that like
it was.
The other ones didn't get the answer. So it was like a crapshoot that it kind of landed on Memphis. He picked the right answer, but I just don't know. Memphis is very trouble. I drafted him on one of my drafts, and now I'm kind of regretting the draft pick right now. Even though he is giving me the points on the draft, I'm just like, I don't feel strong about this. Apparently, he also didn't, during his HOH reign, didn't let people go into his HOH room like didn't keep it open door. He kind of was like very protective of it. So that's also very like telling of his character and how he's playing. And I also try to keep in mind, like I try to keep in mind that he was only contacted a week before the quarantine that they had to do before he went even into the house. So maybe he wasn't like ready to do it or ready to play, but then got that power hungry when he was in there and it's like, oh, look at all this power I could have. That's just my thought on it. I don't know.
No, I 100% I agree with that, because his whole thing throughout the entire week is, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to let anyone give me any other suggestions, which is a horrible strategy as an HOH. You should really try to listen to everyone's input, especially if you're in like a major alliance that's kind of dominating the house right now. You should really be willing to listen to everyone. I mean, I don't personally want to take suggestions from Nicole F, but considering she's in your alliance, you probably should listen to what she has to say. I think easily his weirdest thing that he does is he has this mentality that for some reason, by him giving everyone paranoia and just being so unclear as to what he's going to do, he seems to think he's going to be able to get everyone to play in the safety suite, which was just never going to happen. It was such a weird concept overall. And look, I understand it's only for 3 weeks. And I said it last week. I think regardless if it was for 3 weeks, I think that the way that, I think regardless if it wasn't for 3 weeks, I think it would have ended up 3 weeks anyway, because everyone would just be, so like gung-ho about going for it. But the way that Memphis went about it this week is just ridiculous. Like, he's doing it so him and Cody are the only ones that can play in it, which was just never going to happen. Doesn't make much sense at all. And I just don't see a scenario where they'd even need it at this point, because it doesn't seem like, it doesn't seem like any power.
It was definitely a good strategy on his part, but I mean, there was a way he could have gone about it without telling everyone, oh, I should use it right now. He could have just been like, hey, you're safe with me. And, just something, that can make them just use it without telling them like, oh, you should use it, because if you don't, put you up. He just went about it the wrong way. He just didn't think about it.
No, I agree. I think the idea of making everyone so scared that they'll be nominated so they go for it is a good one. But the way he went about it was just completely the wrong way. Before we get into that, go ahead.
And I think it was the language of how he said it. And personally, as like a woman watching it too, I was agreeing with like Nicole and like Dani, who saw through that also and was like, no, I'm not going to listen to how Memphis. He was coming off a little abrasive and like
it was very alpha dominant.
He was being very
it was.
Yes.
Yeah,
like
very much.
I wouldn't have taken that personal myself. So I coming as a woman, I totally stood with them of like Nicole and being like, why am I going to listen to you, of like very alpha domination.
Yes. But now joining us, because he's finally here, we have someone that knows pretty much everything to know about reality TV, probably way more than I do. Sam Baum, what's up?
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
All right, Sam, now that you're here, before we going back to it, your thoughts on this season overall, because I know you have a lot of thoughts.
Okay. I actually was I think this cast is kind of best case scenario on paper. Like when I saw the cast at first, I was like, I don't think they could have done a better job given like who we were expecting. So it's been a little bit disappointing. But I think that's mostly down to like who has been winning the competitions rather than the casting.
Right.
It's been very frustrating. This week has me kind of in a pessimistic outlook for the rest of the season.
Yes,
but
I agree.
I'm trying to lift myself back up.
Yeah, we were just talking about Memphis' HOH ring and how he tried to get everyone to try to play in the safety, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on that a little bit. Do you think it was a viable strategy? How do you feel about him trying to like guilt everyone into doing it?
I mean, I think Memphis is making it really clear why he was a 0 vote. like finalists. I think everything Memphis does makes sense on paper, and it's like the execution that's so bad because he doesn't treat people like people.
No,
he understands the game on a level of like how to make it to the end, but he doesn't understand the game on a level of how to make people want to vote for him.
yeah.
And I think this was a perfect example. It was like the right thing to get people to do, but the idea of actually getting people to do it causes you a lot of problems long term.
Yeah, definitely. I think the way that he went about it was completely the wrong way. I think it was very demeaning, and just everything that he did this week. It's similar to Cody, where it feels like without Dan, Memphis is fucking nothing, and he's trying so hard to prove that he can be something without Dan. But all he did, inadvertently was just isolate himself from almost the entire house to the point where nobody wants to work with him at this point. And it makes sense why that is, because of the fact that he goes about things the way he did this week. I just thought it was completely the wrong way to attack certain things, like the way that he decided to make these targets and the way that he got everyone to play for safety. It was just completely the wrong way. And I was not, yes, I agree with this wholeheartedly, Marcelo. Memphis is trying to be Dan, but at the end, he'll always be Dan's sidekick. 100%. There's a reason why Dan, go ahead, Allie.
That's like Cody too. He's trying to be Derek's sidekick. Or
Yes.
he'll always be Derek's sidekick, but he's trying to be Derek.
Yeah, they're both trying to play these games that the person that they were the sidekick of played. But the problem is it's not benefiting them at all, because they're not, Cody is not Derek. Memphis is not Dan. They need to be their own players, and they're not.
Well,
And that's what I feel like that's what their duo is trying, and they're like, we know how to be loyal, like in their DRs, like we know how to be loyal, like we're in a part of a duo. And like when you put the two sidekicks together without like that puppet master or like that Dan, I almost said Dr. Will, but you know what I mean, with Dan and with Derek, it's hard to like find your way, because they're trying so hard. Both of them are trying so hard to mimic what their winner did and what their duo did.
It's basically like sequester shadows.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much. If they're basically doing sequester shadows,
Yes.
They're trying to shadow them, and I know probably it's poor execution at this point.
It's like sequester shadows if both of them try to play the exact same way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is actively hurting both of them at this point, because again, they're trying to do these big things, but it's also, I think, really early in the season. And I don't think they realize that. Like, they're like, oh, we got to do all these things now. And it's like, no, you're literally week 2. Like, what are you doing? Like, you need to gain everyone's trust, especially considering that there are quite a few that don't know each other, that haven't interacted before. And I feel like Cody and especially Memphis have just kind of lost the plot there.
Yeah. I mean, those weeks are hard overall.
Yeah.
I do feel better about Cody's odds of making it further, because I do think
especially after this week.
Well, in his first week, he did make a lot of relationships. The difference between him and Memphis is that Memphis is actively isolating people, but Cody has set himself up well, and like the fact that it's always just like physical challenges now works in his favor.
Yeah, definitely Memphis is probably at the bottom of that alliance. And there's going to be a point where, if they start kicking off the old schoolers, like they need to realize the next ones to go are probably like Memphis and Dani, so that's also a reason why like it's not smart of like either Memphis or Dani to go with that majority, because it's just going to end up screwing them.
Yeah, and I very much, again, agree with Marcelo's comment here that, like, they definitely want to be top dogs, but they're not. They're trying to make themselves, but I feel like once we get to a certain point in the season, everything they're going to do is going to be seemingly irrelevant. And I think that's definitely where we're headed. Like, they think they're doing all these amazing things, but in reality, it's just not very exciting at all. And the way they're doing it is quite boring. But yeah, so
I feel like Survivor Winners at Wars really like have a lot of effect on Big Brother 22 in a way, because we just all of them in while quarantine happened just saw Winners at War, and now we're in an All Stars where they did do all old school people went out early, so maybe those new schoolers saw that and felt like, oh, that's our chance, that we have to get rid of like these old school players, where Big Brother is kind of a different beast than Survivor. Like Survivor has 2 seasons a year, and Big Brother only has 1, but I think it's a different beast that Big Brother doesn't have all-star games. So when we're bringing these old school people back, like this is their chance, whereas Survivor, a lot of those people have been back so many times.
Right.
And like people have even brought in the house that like they think that old seasons are boring or they discredit them, and whereas like the old seasons,
why are you here?
The older seasons are the most realist ones, like they're the most I don't know, realistic, and lately the seasons have been just like, I don't know, just so forced in some way or form that it's just, as a viewer, it's hard to watch because we love those old school seasons. So seeing those people getting picked off one by one is just not good.
Well,
I think a lot of it.
So many of these people haven't seen each other's seasons. Like,
exactly.
How different would this Janelle and Nicole situation be if they had seen each other's seasons? Janelle hadn't seen Nicole's season. Nicole hadn't seen Janelle's season, like, apparently. And I feel like that changes the whole dynamic because they don't know how each other operate.
And that's what baffles me. Like, when going into, like, when they got the call, because some of these people have gotten the call since like March or April, so that's an opportunity to just go back and just rewatch some old seasons. And it just baffles me when people got in the house, like Keesha didn't even know who Tyler was. David had only seen season 18 at that point. Some of these people just don't know who these people are, and I'm like, you're an all-star.
Exactly.
What are you doing if you're like, I don't know, a lot of people would die to be in this situation, and the fact that these people don't know what they're doing, it's so bad to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing because again, it's supposed to be this all-stars cast. They're supposed to have knowledge of what they're doing, and it only feels like that's like a fraction of the cast that's like that. But the other thing about Memphis's HOH train is that it stems back to this stupid idea that, Janelle and Kaysar are like the big fish and we need to take them out. And again, it's what I said last week. It's because of the fact that they actually know what the fuck they're doing and nobody else is on their level. And so they fear them because of it. But instead of like, the idea of like fear mongering everyone into going for Janelle and Kaysar, which is not really what Memphis is doing at all. He, for some reason, decides that his targets are going to be like Ian and like Nicole and David. And I don't understand why he chose these people specifically.
Honestly, I am so disappointed in Nicole A, because like I was a huge fan of her last season, and then she disappointed me so much.
She tanked her game.
Yeah, she did. But I'm gonna say this right now. I think I said this last week too. Most of what Nicole A does this week, I don't necessarily blame her for, because I think it's a direct reaction of what she went through last season. If we look back to last season, she had one ally almost the entire time, only one person that had her back. And even in that, Cliff was not very good at the game.
Yeah.
So no, he really wasn't.
Yeah. Well, the idea that people want to work with her, but then also the idea that they're good at the game, I think terrifies her. And I think she has these trust issues because of what she went through last season. I think had they waited a couple more years to get her back on, I don't think things play out the way they do this week, unfortunately.
Here's the way I see it, though, because how many seasons have we seen where there's an alpha male alliance? It's all like white people, every season basically. And so the fact that she believed Memphis that Janelle and Kaysar were going after her, it just doesn't sit right. Like she went through it last year with Jackson, So me as a viewer, I'm like, girl, you already went through this. Why are you believing a white man telling you that the two two old schoolers in the house are trying to like save you? It just doesn't make sense to the viewer. So that's the frustrating part, that just Nicole just did the entire week overall.
Yeah, I think really, it was just like I said, the idea of her trusting people. I think she projected it onto Janelle, and I think that's really what tanked it overall. But leading up to Nicole and David going up, Memphis is like very hostile towards David, which I really was not liking at all. It was very much, I'd say, a microaggression, and that was just something I was not enjoying watching as a viewer.
I have an opinion about this because I just kept seeing it on Twitter, and I mean, I don't know if it's true. Apparently, the nomination speech was edited out, or like there was some like because I mean, I saw on Twitter that he actually said boy instead of buddy, but on the episode we saw that he said buddy. But on Twitter, people were saying that boy is an actual derogatory term, which I didn't even know about.
It is.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
So just seeing that, I was just like, the fact that they edited that. Oh, I mean, like, it's so frustrating to see up to this day. Just, I mean, he probably didn't even do it intentionally, but just the fact that he wasn't conscious of it just says a lot too, you know.
Yeah, and the way that he's speaking,
and it says a lot. Like the women are really trying, like Davon and Bayleigh, they're really trying to change the Big Brother cult. Like they're really trying to change the atmosphere in the house so this isn't like how we are in the world. Like again, the Big Brother microcosm is going to reflect what we're doing outside in the real world.
100%.
And they are really trying to, and it's just that's what we see in real life too, which is sad. But I do applaud the people in the house who are trying. It's just so hard when, again, this alpha male dominance comes over, and it's always going to happen in these reality shows, which is sad to see that like these alpha alliances are going to come together and steamroll, which I wish people could change it, but that's the pattern that people keep falling into.
Yes, and what Marcelo is saying here is absolutely right, too, because he's like, oh, welcome to the big kids table. But it's like, when you think of Big Brother 10, I don't think anyone thinks of Memphis. So, like, you know, I think that's the other thing about this is that the way that he's going about it, he has this, like, elitist mentality. Like, I deserve to be here. You don't. Get the fuck out of this season. And look, I said this last week. David is clearly trying to play up the fact that he doesn't know what he's doing, that he hasn't played that much, and clearly he knows more than he's letting on. But the way that Memphis goes about it isn't encouraging. It's not like, oh, you haven't proven that you're an all-stars yet. You know, win the veto and prove it to me. It's, I don't think you deserve to be here. I want you out. Get the fuck out of my house. It very much feels that way.
Even if that's what he was thinking, like he could have avoided saying that. You know, he could have just been like, I'm nominating you two, and you know, I'm giving you guys an opportunity to put yourself off from the block. That's basically it. That's all he could have said, but instead he decided to say this, and
Well, but it's also not just that, because he also made him a have-not so that he'd have to struggle. Which then completely contradicts the idea.
I forgot about that,
Well, and also, like, it's not David who was an alternate for the season, so
no, it was Memphis. Exactly.
I would love if Memphis or Cody left next week.
Oh yeah, I would love that too. Unfortunately, I don't think it's. We'll talk about that, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I hope that happens because it hopefully this week. I know we're not there yet, but like I think the tides could turn a lot if Memphis does get out.
Yeah, there's a slight possibility about this, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk about it later. But like, if we can talk like the backdoor plan, you know, just I would like to see what happened specifically last season when that alliance blew up, and it
that was amazing.
I want to see that happening because
it was the best week.
It was honestly the best week.
Yeah, that was definitely the best week of that season for sure. But no, going back to Memphis and David here, just the way that whole thing went down, not only was it very demeaning and very much was kind of like a microaggression, definitely it was very problematic in that way. It's also really bad for Memphis's game because if David doesn't leave this week, and let's just say hypothetically, like David wins a comp, Memphis is first on his list to go after. And I don't think Memphis realized how much damage HOH he did this week. Like, he is not in a good position now because of everything that he did. And especially in week 2, like, again, you can definitely be the HOH, you can be dominant, but you have to do it in such a way where you still are in good standing with the house. And I don't think Memphis is at all after this week.
Yeah, we even saw it on the feeds that like his whole alliance was just like, what's wrong?
We're done. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So they're gonna find one opportunity to get rid of him.
Yeah, and honestly, if they do, it's entirely his own doing that ends up happening. But going to the safety for a second, this was very interesting because what ends up happening is not what I would have expected to happen. Because pretty much, you know, he doesn't get everyone into doing it, but a lot of people do. Like Bayleigh does it, and Devon does it, and a couple other people. So it does come down to Christmas and Ian. Ian's time was pretty close, but ultimately Christmas does end up taking it, and she saves Ian, which was interesting. I would not have expected. Yeah, I would not have expected for Thanksgiving to come after a Big Brother 14 player, but
I heard Nicole Franzel told her to save him, but I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, I think, well, I looked at it this way. I think that Christmas is in a very interesting position right now because of the fact that she doesn't have many allies. Like, she's working with people, but she isn't working with people with the point where, you know, she has those allies. She knows she's good. She's very much an open book right now. And I think saving someone like Ian is a good way of gaining an ally in that way. And I think someone like Ian, who's also kind of alone in the house, I think that's a good opportunity for these two to potentially work together. And so I think while it's a weird idea thinking Christmas of all people saved Ian, it actually does make sense. And I do like that we're getting to see more of like Christmas the comp beast, so to speak. Like, this is maybe what we could have gotten in Big Brother 19 had she not been such a flop and broken her foot.
Well, I mean, if you also realize that if she wouldn't have saved Ian, these nominations and even the eviction would have been different. You know, we would have maybe seen a situation where, I mean, it's obviously Ian and David on the block, and maybe even David goes home at that point. Who knows? But yeah, definitely that changed the entire nomination because Memphis was definitely targeting Ian from the beginning.
Yeah, and it goes back to something I was talking about last week where, like, similar to Janelle, everyone seems to be like, oh, Ian shouldn't be here. He's won before. But it's like, well, so has Nicole F. And why don't you use that argument against her? Like, I don't really get it, you know? Like, he's not the only winner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just the way that whole thing goes down. Ian's safe, and then he does decide to put up Nicole A and David, which I think were probably after everything he did, these were probably the safest nominations he could have potentially come up with. So it's like, was it even worth it creating all this chaos if you're just going to go for like the safest options of just, people from last season? It's so easy to do that. You can talk about how they're irrelevant because, you know, there's like recent, you know, there could be like a recency bias and things like that, and you're not about it. Like, it's just after everything that you did, why did you need to do all of this, you know, chaos and do all of this, you know, dancing around who you're going to put up and getting people to go for safety if you were just going to go for the two people that were in last season anyway?
Yeah, and this is definitely the start of seeing the cracks in this alliance because you know, Christmas did not you know, tell Memphis who he wanted to save in that situation if she wanted. They didn't communicate, and so obviously Memphis was pissed at this decision, but it just comes down to like, well, if you're in an alliance, you have to communicate that with your partners. You know, and the fact that she didn't, or they didn't, there's no trust there.
Yeah, especially going to Wednesday when they're floating the idea of, why don't we just go for like the big fish and Janelle and Kaysar, and Memphis is just not about it at all, which I'm glad he's not about it because like I don't want them to go out early. You know, they're the only like interesting people this season right now besides Devon and Bayleigh. But like at the same time, it's like he doesn't want to do it, but like the rest of his alliance does. It's like, how is this alliance have any chance of surviving, you know? And especially when Tyler wants to work with David, it's like, there's so many cracks. There's so many cracks.
Yeah.
It's so messy.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's so messy the way all of that is going down. And so then we go to Wednesday, which the way everything turns out here. So now that Ian is safe, we didn't talk about this before, but Ian has this punishment similar to last week with Janelle in that star costume. Ian has to act out like these Star Wars type segments, and they're pretty fun. They're definitely fun to see. They do these like little punishments and things like that. And I enjoyed this for the most part. I think it's like, I always say like little punishments, harmless stuff like this. They're fun to watch as a viewer. They don't really interfere with the season. And I think it is showing how the safety suite as a twist is very much working, because it's not interfering with the season too much. It's not ruining the pace of the season. If anything, it's helping the season, because Janelle and Kaysar are still in. They probably would not have been if they had not gotten safety. So there's that, but then also the case that it's not like this, no one's overpowered. It's only for 1 week. And I'm overall liking the way the safety suite is playing out. It's just unfortunate that it's gone after next week, because I do think it is helping the season rather than hurting it.
Yeah, I wonder if we're gonna like after the safety suite, we're gonna get an additional thing,
like care packages or something like that.
Something. I don't know.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see them shaking things up, especially if
we could possibly see more long competitions, like the endurance ones that do take a while because they have to fill that Sunday episode. So we could be saving that up. It's time for the endurance, the real endurance-y comps now that we
endurance-y.
But I'm just waiting for the season 6 button comp to come back. Like, give us pressure a comp cooker? Like that. Yes, pressure cooker. Yes. Give us pressure cooker and let's blow the roof off this house. Like a competition like pressure cooker, I think could definitely shake up, especially in modern Big Brother. That.
Yeah, no, that would be cool to see, considering that, like we said, there's already cracks in this foundation already. So it's like, I'd like to see something like that. So it just like fully erupts, but we're not quite there yet. It seems like we're starting to get there, but not really. Like it's a very slow pace towards chaos. It's like a very slow moving bomb that's like gonna explode at some point, but not yet. So that's kind of how it feels right now. But now that we've talked about all the Memphis stuff, we really got to get into the main subject, which unfortunately is Nicole and just the down spiral of Nicole, which, I'm with Sam's face is pretty accurate here, because it's very disappointing, because going into this season, I said, there are 2 Nicoles, one of which I can't stand, one of which I will stand the entire season. And just the way things go for her this week are just so unfortunate, because I feel like she was in a really good spot. She was working with old school people, which you would not have expected. You would have expected her to work with the new schoolers, but she was working with the old schoolers, and she was well protected by those old schoolers. Mm-hmm. Janelle is doing everything she can this week, especially to try to keep her safe. She wants to work with Nicole, and yet because of the fact that, she wants to work with Nicole feels it's disingenuous. She doesn't trust Janelle in that sense. And I think it's a combination of what I said, but also because when so much of the house is so actively against Janelle, it's like kind of hard to not lean that way, It's like, I think she was kind of influenced as well.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. What was I going to
say? No, but I think the thing with Nicole is that unfortunately she just kind of lost the plot. Her reads on the house are at an all-time low, probably some of the worst I've ever seen. And I hate saying this about someone like Nicole, who I loved so much last season, but I think it's because of the fact that she really was never in any real danger aside from that 1 week when she was locked out of the HOH room. She was never actually going to be the target. She never was actually going to be out the door. There were always people that were bigger targets than her. So I think the fact that she knows that she's the target, I think that also really scared her. And I think that's why she ended up doing what she did.
Yeah, I would have been honestly very interested to see a house meeting happen. I mean, obviously it wouldn't
That
have
would have been
affected,
so messy.
obviously it wouldn't have affected Kaysar or Janelle's game because they're already the main targets, but it would have been just interesting as a view. I'm dying to see a fight already happen. So like,
I want that Nicole F and Janelle confrontation already. Like, give me that. That's what I
I'm
want to
just
see.
waiting for that moment. Like, if Janelle ever wins another head of house, I just want it to be like, give me that key, bitch.
Yes.
Yes.
Bye, bitches.
Nicole doesn't have confrontations. Like, we can wait and wait.
Oh, no. She's
like, she's not that person.
She is the most passive aggressive person in the entire house right now, and it's going to stay that way, unfortunately. And that's why she's so boring. That's why I'm not a fan of her, because she's so fucking passive, and I don't like passive players. You know, I like what Janelle is doing. But again, the problem with Janelle is that the fact that everyone is so against her. And because that, I think that's why Nicole also is very much against her, which is just very, very disappointing. The whole idea of her calling a house meeting, again, just really shows how she was so... Yeah, she was so in the dark of what was actually going on. Like, oh, I'm going to be like Dan Giesling. And it's like, I want to root for you. I really want to root for you. But you're just doing everything you can to actively sabotage your gameplay. And again, I don't necessarily blame her for it. I think a lot of it is like PTSD or something like that, where like clearly she has some sort of after effect of what happened last season, and it's gotten to her. And I hope she's able to work that out once I'm glad she's out of the house now so she can work out on that. But like, it's just, I really feel like she could have been in a great position this season, and she just actively squandered it this week.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think she was in the mental state to be back.
No, I agree.
Like you said, I think if she would have waited just a couple years, like I'm sure they would have invited her back, either to another All-Stars or just like another like half newbies, half vets, season. But definitely, I don't think she was just ready to come back.
Yeah, and Marcelo brought up a great point here that like David was supposed to be the target initially. Like, it was not supposed to be Nicole.
I mean, she never had to process the negative stuff that happened in her season. Like, she came out to so much love and so much positivity. And I feel like that was great. But then she never, when you leave a situation, everyone's like, you've grown so much. You're a different person. Like, you don't have to look inside at like where you still need to work.
Especially back to back like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also don't think we can talk about like the Nicole downfall while ignoring the Kevin part of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge. Like, I remember last week, like on the live feeds right before nominations, Nicole and Kevin were talking about like how comfortable they feel, how perfectly in the middle they are. And then there was like, I think it was Nicole who was like, what if Janelle and Cody are secretly working together and like we're gonna be shocked and we're gonna be nominated, and they laughed about it, but then the next day Kevin was nominated, and I think that started this whole like, oh no,
chain of events.
And so I think it was just like this nonsense of Kevin.
I do have to say I think Kevin was also a huge part of Nicole's demise, because Kevin is just in Nicole's ear the whole damn like day during the feed.
He's the Cliff of this season for her.
He was just like, do not trust Janelle and Kaysar. Do not trust Janelle and Kaysar. And it was just so frustrating to watch.
Kevin's playing a really snaky game.
Yeah, it's very disappointing because I know, again, I've said this before, I have not watched Big Brother 11, but I have heard that Kevin was very under the radar, and he did a lot of stuff that, put him in these positions where he could have gone, but he didn't go, like the lie and things like that in Big Brother 11. And it seems like this season, it's the complete opposite. He's going to get caught soon. I think he's out the door, like in the next few weeks. Like, he's in a really bad position. And I think, like you said, Sam, I think that's the other thing that hurt her, is that she was working with she picked exactly the wrong person as like her number one. I think her number one should have been Kaysar, because they had that great conversation like in the storage room on like night one. And I really thought like this is a great duo for Nicole. These two are like-minded. They've been through similar circumstances. He really sympathizes with what she's gone through. She really sympathizes with him. They're in similar positions. Like, I really feel if she would have stuck to that too with Kaysar and like rope Janelle in some way, I think things go completely differently for her than they do this week overall. I think she just needed to stay loyal to them and veer away from Kevin, because clearly Kevin has no idea what's actually happening this season.
I mean, I wouldn't mind him leaving.
No, I wouldn't either.
I feel like Kevin is starting to see the light now, and it's unfortunate because Nicole's already gone. And now the issue is that people like Kevin are going to have to clean up a mess that they started, in a sense, by going around and bashing Janelle, bashing Kaysar. Like, you're not going to get the votes on your side when you've been, like, talking about how terrible they are for weeks. But I do think that he and Janelle are starting to be like, oh, we do actually need each other. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, like, this week is going to be very crucial depending on who leaves, because that's when I think a lot of the minorities are going to start realizing we screwed up, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So, it just comes to whoever gets evicted come Sunday.
The other side of it, though, that we haven't talked about is the David of it all, because he's in a really weird position right now, where on one hand you have Devon and Bayleigh who want to work with him because he's the only person of color and because they also sympathize with him because of that. But then at the same time, when Devon is talking to him... Wait, what were you saying?
No, that I'm like, that part was also frustrating because, like, Devon, I mean, I understand the whole POC, but at the same time, I was just like, do you really think David cares about that? I don't think so.
No, he doesn't.
Like, it doesn't. Like, I love Devon for, like, trying to include him into that, you know, bring the POC awareness. But let's be honest here, David is not going to respect that down the line. You know, like, there's going to be a time where he's probably going to flip on both of them. And it sucks because then that's when Devon is going to realize, shit, I should have, like, not stuck my neck out for him.
Yeah, I think that was definitely, and the way that she goes about it too is just very weird, because on one hand she's actively trying to keep him, but then she realizes, oh shit, he's in another alliance. He's not with us right now. So it's like, it was very hard to tell what was going on there. It's very hard to tell where David really lies at the moment. And I think that's why he's either going to go soon or he's going to go all the way to the end, because people are just never going to be able to tell where he lies. And so everyone's going to try to work with him. I feel like he's very much an open book right now. Like, it's hard to read David and where he is in the house, but I don't think it's with Devon and Bayleigh. I don't think that's where his loyalties lie. And I guess we'll just have to see.
The only way David, I think, would long-term go with Devon and Bayleigh is if the Bayleigh-Tyler connection becomes stronger, and then those four can kind of loop in together.
Which I think it should.
And I think that would be a great way for the season to go.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the way things turn out, which, I mean, we'll get into at the end of, you know, the way things are headed into next week. I think that'd be really good if Bayleigh linked up with Tyler. But, you know, I guess we'll see what ends up happening there. But just, again, David is very much, you know, it's just hard to tell where he lies in terms of the house. And I guess we'll just have to see. Yeah. But, yeah, so getting to the end of it all with Nicole, eventually she does realize, oh shit, I fucked up. You know, Janelle was trying to keep me. The problem is she realized it, I believe, like Wednesday nights. And it's like, it's great that you realize that, but unfortunately it's just too late. And you feel bad for Janelle because Janelle was trying so hard to keep her, and she's crying over the fact that, like, you know, and people are saying, like, why is Janelle crying? I think Janelle's crying because she talked about it. She adored Nicole. She wanted to work with Nicole. I think Nicole could have potentially ended up being her number one at some points even. So, like, I think the fact that, you know, the person that she was trying so hard to keep was so actively against her, you know, for a while, I think that really hurt Janelle, because she realized, like, this was my chance of, like, keeping someone in the house. Because Janelle brought up, like, if Nicole A goes, like, this is really bad for Kaysar and I. And I agree. You know, Nicole was one of the only allies she had left. And, you know, that's completely ruined now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think this is where you also start seeing how Janelle has grown and has, you know, it's more mature now than the old days, you know?
Right.
Even though she's still playing hard, she's not really, like, being aggressive. She's not really playing with her emotions. She's being smart about it. And so like it's really good to see as a viewer her evolution in her game. So yeah, I mean it was very devastating just seeing her. She was just crying over the fact that like she disappointed Nicole in that sense, you know. Yeah.
Ivan, 100%. I was just listening to the RHEP interview with Erica from Big Brother 7, the first All Stars, and Erica was saying like Janelle, like that was like even Kaysar was in shock. Like Erica was also in shock that Janelle cried over Nicole. Like she was like, it's such an evolution of Janelle as a player and as a person, because Erica was also like feeling how Kaysar was, that she would have never seen that in Big Brother 7 Janelle, but like now she's evolved so much. And I feel like everyone just wants to pinpoint Janelle. Like I feel like she's grown so much, and I feel like they have to stop pigeon-holding her in that old Janelle Big Brother 6 image of her and what she does, and give her a chance now.
Yeah, because that's not who she is anymore.
That's not who she is anymore. And clearly, like, I would never have expected Janelle to cry. Like, we always, you know, Big Brother 6, she was like that strong competition person. But even seeing her cry as a viewer, I was like, give Janelle a chance to, like, automatically ostracize her and put her in the corner because of who she is and her reputation.
Yeah, it's honestly very upsetting to see as a viewer that everyone is just so obsessed with both Janelle and Kaysar. Like, even I think it was Dani who said, talking one-on-one with like Cody or Tyler, that, you know, like, oh, let's take out the queen of Big Brother. And I was just like, you know how that kind of works in Survivor, you know, like Denise, I love Denise, but she took out Sandra, but you know, the queen stays queen no matter what. You know, even if Dani was the one who takes the shot, or whoever takes the shot, Janelle's still gonna be one of the most respected, most like Big Brother players of all time. You know,
it's also just really weird to hear that in an all-star season when people are like, oh, the queen of the house. It's like, aren't you all like kings and queens because you're all-stars? Like, you should want to work with her rather than like actively like campaign against her. Because like, if we go ahead, Allie.
Oh, I was just gonna say, this is why Kaysar and Janelle have been on both All-Star seasons, because they're that good.
And they will.
We also saw that
there's gonna be another All-Stars. Janelle will come back at like Janelle, Rachel, and Brittany are three people that if they get the call later on in following years, they're gonna be back no matter what.
Oh, yeah. No, they are undyingly loyal. But speaking of loyalty, I think that's something else that people are really underestimating, is that if you're working with Janelle, she's going to bat for you. She's going to be very loyal. We saw that with Nicole, and I think that's why she was as upset as she was. And I think that's something else that they're not realizing is like, if y'all would just like take a second and like get over yourself and just be like, all right, let's try to work with Janelle. Suddenly she's not going to be as threatening because you're working with her, and you can be, you know, a number for her. Like, you can work with her and she'll feel like she's on better terms with you. And I feel like if, you know, like say Nicole, which she'll never do, if Nicole F can just get over herself for a second and realize that Janelle is not against her as she thinks she is, I think all of them would be in better positions because Janelle would be going to bat for them, and Janelle would always be there for them. And it's disappointing because Janelle is not at all the way that they are portraying her anymore. And it's sad to see. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if all they have of Janelle is just a compilation of how she was in like Big Brother 6, or her just like nominating people when she was HOH in that double eviction. Like, I would not be surprised if that's all they've seen of Janelle, and that's why they see her that way, which if that's the case, like, these are not all stars, like not at all.
In a lot of ways, she never was that. Like when I think of Janelle as a player, I think of her as like fiercely loyal, team oriented. Like she likes having her people, and it's so strange to me that a lot of these players would rather go with the like people who aren't being upfront about where they stand than the people who are.
Yeah, they've seen both. I mean, Janelle has played. This is her 4th time. Kaysar has played 2 times. So I mean, they kind of know how they're gonna play the game in a way, and so just to see them getting targeted week after week after week is just frustrating. Because after that, if they end up going in the next weeks, who's next? That's what they need to realize. Who's the biggest target after they leave?
They seem to think the season's over after Janelle and Kaysar leave, which would just this is not a team game. That's the other thing. There's already this like team mentality, and I've always hated that about Big Brother. It's every man for himself in that way. Like, yes, you want to gain allies and you want to do that, but there's only going to be one winner. Like, this isn't a team game. And I think people like Cody and like Memphis and like, people like that could really learn a thing or two about that, because that's not what it is. And I think Cody is like that because of the way that Derek played in Big Brother 16. It worked for him because he was so above everyone. It's not going to work for Cody. And the same goes for Memphis and them going on like these comp sprees and things like that. It's like, yes, it's good for them, but should they really be doing this so early within the season? Because I can easily see a situation later on when people are clocking the fact that, hey, Cody's won a lot of comps. Memphis has been winning all these comps. Like, we need to go after them for this because they're going to be winning constantly. And I think someone eventually is going to put a stop to it. I'm just worried that someone could be Janelle, and Janelle could end up going next week, and then there will just be back to the status quo, of which I'm not liking at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very, very disappointing. But the way things turn out, I will say I was happy that at the end of the day, it was not a unanimous vote, because there should not be unanimous votes in All-Star seasons. I talked about this last week. The fact that there was a unanimous vote is ridiculous to me. These are all-stars. They should be able to think for themselves. So I do like that. I think it was Kevin, and then who else saved
Enzo.
Nicole?
Enzo.
Yeah, Enzo.
That was like out of nowhere. That's
as weird as that's as weird as him as Kevin wanting Enzo to play like in the veto. Like, why is Enzo doing all these like really weird like moves that just like
I don't know. I feel like Enzo might have done it because of like he feels the same way of like Nicole.
Yeah,
I don't think as much as I'd like to say that Enzo's being strategic, which I know
he's not.
I wish so badly.
Yeah.
He's not. I feel like he might have just saved or gave a vote to Nicole because of like, oh, she's from the tri-state area, maybe of like that mentality of like, yeah, we're gonna stick together.
Yeah, I hope they explain it next Sunday. Definitely.
Sometimes I keep forgetting Enzo's even there.
No,
I
honestly,
think Enzo's doing a great job, and
he's
I'd agree. And I actually
he's definitely doing way better than like Cody and Memphis. And, you know,
I tend to think that was like strategic. I think Enzo thought there would be more votes headed towards Nicole's in Nicole's favor, and I think that he was thinking, okay, if Janelle and Kaysar both do this, like if I slide in there and add an extra vote, that'll cause some chaos. But I think with only 2 votes, it probably didn't have the effect.
Yeah, but I think it also does show that he's not really with that side. Like, he is playing his own kind of game, and I think he's going to eventually be a free agent, which I think is interesting for Enzo. So I'm excited to see where he ends up going, because between that, Kevin then choosing him to like play the veto, and then what he did this week, which of course we'll talk about in next week's like podcast, Enzo's in a very interesting spot right now where he's kind of with everyone, and I'm excited to see where his loyalties really lie.
My sister and I were having this conversation actually yesterday that like, yes, Enzo might not have been the most like, people might have scratched their chin a little and been like, Enzo, why is he here? But I think he does. I think he was a lot of that strategic mastermind behind the brigade, even if we don't give him much credit. I think Enzo has a lot of strategic chops, but because of his personality and because of like how out there he is with the stories, people discount him. And I think that is a strong suit that Enzo has to make it far. And I'm an Enzo stan over here, so anyone can come to me if they got a problem.
No, I've always enjoyed Enzo in the game. I think back to Big Brother 12 when Annie in the finale says, like, you know, all of you are being manipulated by Enzo, but none of you realize you were being manipulated. Like, I kind of think back to that when people, you know, discredit what Enzo did. It's like, no, he did do a lot. It's just people didn't realize he was doing it.
I wish Enzo did not have the, like, weariness towards Ian, because I feel like they could really use each other in the current house dynamics.
Mm-hmm. They're in similar spots where, like, they're both very much, like, not necessarily with the majority, but they're also not with the other side of the house. Like, they're kind of in their own positions. And I do agree. I think if they played the middle a bit more and, like, worked something out, like the two of them, I think they'd be unstoppable. 100%. I could definitely see things working out for Enzo and Ian. But yeah, so Enzo is one of the only votes to save Nicole. Nicole goes out, and just her entire speech to Julie, I just felt so bad for her, because she's realized
Julie was basically telling her, like, you screwed up big time, girl.
And it was so awkward.
Right?
Picture of who you should not have believed. You know, so
if this were like non-corona times, I feel like Julie would have like hit her in the head with her cards and been like, what is wrong with you?
I'm living for like the state of Julie Chen, these past, like, I feel like starting like last season, she really like hit a new chapter of her as a host.
I love
Yes, she's not robotic now. She actually has emotions.
I love the fact that there was like that awkward pause, and she was like, I would hug you, but because of the times.
Yeah, that's great.
I was like, oh my god.
The Chen bot is growing more human, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
She's
thing.
having the same arc as Janet in The Good Place.
Well, someone told me that I think she's starting to see how the hosts of other Big Brother are doing, you know, with Arisa and the other ones around the world. And I think she's realizing that they're more connected with the players. They're more invested in the game. And I think that's what Julie is trying to do here. Maybe it's not there yet.
I don't know if it's working, but it's I do agree. I think she is trying to make more of an effort, because, you know, in past seasons she was very like passive and like kind of like she didn't really get involved. Like, she was very much just like neutral. Like, she didn't really give her thoughts. But now it seems like it's like the opposite. Like, you fucked up. I hate that you did this. Like, get off of my set. Like, she's very direct. But for someone like Nicole, who is just so upset over what happened, like, I really did feel bad for her in that instance, because I can't imagine what it's like to have to come back to that, see all the things that, you know, Twitter is saying. And that's why, like, I made a point on Twitter, like, saying just be kind to her. Like, she fucked up, and I think she realizes that she fucked up. Unfortunately, it was too late, but like, I don't think she did anything like bad to the point where like we should cancel Nicole A. Like, just because she's going against Janelle, I don't think that's a reflection of who Nicole is as a person. I think she just got into her own head because of what she went through last season, projected those feelings of, you know, being shut out and feeling isolated. I think she projected that onto Janelle because she has those trust issues. And I think because of that, she just couldn't come back from it. And I think that's what hurt her.
Yeah. And one last thing with Julie, can we talk about those weird cryptic messages she's saying at the end of the shows now?
It's so scripted. It's so scripted. I hate it. It's like, and I think what it is that because there is no live audience, and because the fact that there isn't like, you know, something for her to read off of, everything she's doing now just sounds so forced and awkward.
It really does.
Yeah, like, I don't know why they can't go back to like the old days, because in the old days there was no live audience, you know, when someone got evicted. And so I don't know why they can't just go back to those times to where just like, like, let's talk about what happened. Here are your messages, and then that's it, you know. But
it's like she doesn't know how to do it anymore because she's done it for so long, you know.
I maintain that it is a must that from every week this week forward, we get Julie calling out who looked the best in the previous week.
Yeah. Yeah, like when she told Dani that she looked like Busy Phillips. Like, what was that? Like, what a weird compliment. Last week, you look like Busy Phillips. This week, and on her birthday, like, Jesus. Oh my God. No, Julie is just on another level this season. I don't know what kind of level it's something. It's definitely something.
She's something else.
Yes. Yeah, but so
it's just like a reflex that I want to say, like at the end, like from outside the Big Brother house, I'm Julie Chen, like just knowing that, and then she comes out like saying random catchphrases, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with you, girl, but like you're being so cryptic.
Like, I can't wait for her to say like, trust us, trust no one. You know?
Could you imagine if somebody was wearing sequester merch in the house?
Right. Oh my God, imagine.
Yeah, honestly, that would be interesting to see if that was the case. Would anyone be wearing sequester merch? Who knows if that would be a thing, especially during Big Brother talk. That would never happen. But so now we got to get to the thing though that absolutely devastates all of us, this HOH competition. So much was on the line for this. So much was on the line because I honestly feel the way things were setting up, we could have been in for a really interesting third week. You know, the way that the alliance was starting to crack, the way that now Janelle and Kaysar were kind of alone. I was really pulling for them to get that HOH, as I think many of them were. And Janelle was so close, and it just didn't happen. Unfortunately, Tyler ends up getting this. And look, I liked Tyler in his season a lot. I don't like the fact that Tyler, again, is in that same alliance. And there's no variety here. I like the idea of the pendulum being swung from week to week. Even if it's not from my favorites, I like the idea of someone else being in power because we haven't seen that before. What are they going to do with it? Where does their head lie? And the fact that that's not what we're getting, it's the same alliance for the past 3 weeks. That's really boring to me. I don't like the idea that, you know, someone of Cody, Tyler, Enzo, and Memphis end up winning every single week. I don't like that the only comp wins have been from that side. I want to see what Davon would do with it. I want to see what Bayleigh would do with it, you know? It's not just because I like them in the house. It's because I want to see what they would do with that power. And the fact that we're not going to get to see that this week. Again, Tyler as an HOH, he could be interesting because he was definitely chaotic in 20 at points. I just don't know what he's going to end up doing. You know, I don't know where I think he's going to go for the safe moves because it seems like that's per the course for this season. And I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, I legit screamed at the TV as soon as that happened. Like, I was so excited at first for Ian because I was like, okay,
Me too.
We're good.
Right.
And when Tyler got in and like being the last two people being Kaysar and Janelle, I was like, oh my God, please.
That just made it worse.
Yeah, it just made it worse. But I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it, like just people talking on Twitter about that competition, the fact that, you know, Tyler clocked in his time before his cup stopped moving. There was apparently the same score as Janelle, but since Janelle clocked in earlier, Janelle should have won. Like everyone, like there was even a petition going around, just like asking for production to just switch it to Janelle. Like it was.
I saw a Twitter video where some woman like calls up CBS and is like, yeah, something's wrong with CBS. They said that Tyler won, but really it's Janelle. Can you like fix this narrative? Like what's going on here?
I was honestly like expecting, like when it was Janelle's turn to go, to have like a bumper at the back of the table just to stop her cup, like at least
like what happened in like the first week.
Some rigging of some sort to just like make her win, but
more rigging.
We can only rig for the people that we don't want to win, not the people we do want.
No, that's what I posted earlier today. With the Big Brother Australia, with Angela leaving and her going into that bunker. I'm like, please, like, have something of that sort. Just like Janelle going to a separate secret room that we haven't seen and just like control the game from there. I don't know.
It would be so good.
It would be. It would be.
Yeah, I was feeling particularly hopeless about the HOH, and then of course in like typical Big Brother fashion, it like happens in the way that builds up your hopes the most before like crashing you down to earth. And like I really like I'm liking Tyler this season, but I just like this was such an easy one for him to win and like get no blood on his hands, and it's like okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we do wrap things up, Melissa, you said you had to go, so I guess just like give your wrap up.
My wrap up. Yes, I do have to go. I'm trying to stay positive of the Big Brother season because we're so lucky to have a season during this time of Corona. Exactly. It's just so hard with the gameplay right now. And this is when Big Brother should be at its finest in the beginning where things are shifting dynamically. But I'm hoping for it to turn around and to get a good middle game at least. So I'm still holding out hope. But with things are turning out right now, it's a little sad how it's going, but I'm still enjoying Big Brother.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me, Kevin.
Of course. Yes, you can definitely follow Melissa's Twitter and things like that. She's great, despite the fact that she targets me in BB random game. She's great aside from that.
Yeah, besides from that.
And the Big Time Rush poster, definitely. That's definitely Big Time
We're
Rush.
not going to go there, but okay.
Yes. All right.
Thank you, guys.
I'll let you go cook dinner now.
Bye, Melissa.
Bye, Melissa. All right.
Yeah, no, I think for me, best case scenario for this coming week would be for Tyler to pull off a Brent blindside from like season 2020, you know, where Brent didn't even know what was happening and he just completely got blindsided. I like that would be the best case scenario for us to see, just if either Janelle or Kaysar win the power veto, or either someone random, they pull someone off the block, and then for him to just backdoor someone and then the tides shift. That would be the case.
Yeah.
That would definitely be interesting to see. I want to see a scenario where just something unexpected happens. That's really all I want going into this week, because I think we can all agree it has been way too predictable so far. Everything has just been so predictable. Nothing really has been surprising to us, aside from the fact of how boring an all-star season is. I think that's the only thing that's been surprising to us. And I think all we need is just something to spice it up. Anything. Give fucking I don't know, open like a Pandora's box and give it to Janelle or something so she can't go up. Give her like a coup d'etat. I don't know. Just do something to change it up, because I swear if next week goes with just one of Janelle or Kaysar leaving, I don't know how I'm going to watch the rest of the season, because this is just...
Even get a twin twist or something.
No, exactly. Like put fucking I don't know, do something. Do anything to shake things up right now. That's all we need, because just the way things are going are not interesting. It is this it's not, like I said last week, it's not even bad gameplay. It is mid-tier gameplay, which is very hard to watch because it's so ridiculously boring. I mean, yes, there's bad gameplay like Memphis, but it's not like at an all-time low either, like Big Brother 19, where we can just shit about it constantly. Like, that's the thing. I want to be positive about this season. I want to enjoy the season. I want to have something to talk about. But when things like this are going down, it's like, it's hard to find something to talk about when things are so predictable.
I do think there is, and I'm trying to, maybe this is me just trying to prepare myself for this moment, but I do think there is an upside to one of Janelle or Kaysar leaving this week, because the sooner one of them leaves, the sooner the narrative of the season can shift. And I do think the other, whoever it is, will be entirely capable of sticking around longer. I don't think this is a Jess and Cody thing where they're just one's gonna go, then the other will. I think, but the narrative does kind of need to shift away from the two of them versus everyone else, because as long as that's a thing, the rest of the house will be complacent.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's definitely a complacency thing, because nobody wants to, take that power away. And I've said this before, Davon and Bayleigh are sensing it. Like, try to do something about it. Don't just like sit idly by. This is why these things happen every single season, because nobody is trying to change anything about it. Nobody is actively trying to, stop this from happening. And I think that's really what it hurts these seasons. It's a two-way street. Like, yes, the white men dominate, but nobody tries to stop it. And I think that's the thing that is already hurting the season, is that it's just too typical Big Brother. And I would think in an all-star season, that's not at all what we would get. And the fact that we are, that's what's disappointing me, I would say, more than anything.
I think this week and next week are probably going to be the most crucial to see
100%.
A pivoting point in the season. If we don't see it, then I don't
Especially
think
without a safety suite, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, so if we don't see it in this week or next week, I don't think
it's not
going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm not even American, but can they let me in the house and shake things up?
honestly,
I would not mind an intruder. Like, if they can find a good all-star to just push in there.
I may be like,
get fucking Johnny Mac in there. I don't care. Like, where is he? Put Johnny Mac in there. There we go. We need.
Or just bring in Brittany and just have her baby there.
And pregnant Rachel, yeah.
I don't know why the producers were so against the Rachel Alyssa idea. I think that was brilliant.
That would have been that would have been great too, because you can put Alyssa in when Rachel can't compete in things, and it works perfectly. Just have them play as one.
Yeah, why do they think Big Brother's above that?
They did it in BB Can 4 with Nick and Phil, so
right.
I don't understand why they couldn't do that.
And I would much rather see that for Rachel and Alyssa than Nick and Phil. So, like, I'm all down for something like that to happen. But again,
the first baby born inside the Big Brother house. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Also, Vanessa deserved All-Stars too.
Yeah. And Brian asked a really interesting question. What would you do to shake things up? Again, I think I would just recognize like what's going on in the house and try to do something to stop it. Like maybe take someone from that core alliance and try to say like, yeah, working with them is not in your best interest. Work with me and like these few other people. We can change up the dynamics. We'll be in better standing. And then I think that could really shift this season. I just don't think anyone really wants to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think for me, like, well, first of all, I'm a minority, so I would obviously go with the minorities in this group. And then,
of course, yeah.
And then second, like you have Janelle there, like,
yeah,
she's the Big Brother stamp, along with Rachel. So why would you not want to work with someone like that? It just doesn't.
Janelle, she's literally like my favorite player ever.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know.
I also think something that I'm hoping is going to happen is like even just disregarding Janelle and Kaysar, some sort of new group forming from the people who are in the middle, and then like maybe they can bring in Janelle and Kaysar after that. But I think like no one wants to be the person to be like, oh, Janelle and Kaysar told me to do this, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that I feel like are already kind of connected, and all they need to do is like form their own like mini group next to the Dani Cody group, and I think that would
I think what you said, Sam, is very true, that I think at least one of them needs to leave in order for that to happen.
True.
I agree.
So obviously we're gonna lose a great player in either Janelle or Kaysar, but I think that might change the dynamic of how this game is going.
Yeah, I mean, especially if Janelle's gone, it's like, who can they talk shit about, So it's like, that changes things right off the bat. It's not going to be so much of like, Janelle just like, oh, fuck Janelle. Like, we hate Janelle. Why is Janelle doing this? Why is Janelle staying up all night? Like, them just questioning Janelle about everything. Suddenly, with Janelle out of the equation, which I hate to think about, the season's different. So hopefully it's a positive that we're not seeing right now. But at the same time, I just want to see one of Memphis, Cody, Tyler, Enzo like gone, because they're just really just not interesting me. Maybe not Enzo. Like I said,
Nicole
Enzo's in an interesting spot. But
Nicole,
I'd love to see Memphis go.
Even Dani. I'm
Dani's not
disappointed.
Okay, Nicole's always been like one of my like personal favorites, because like she kind of gave me like vibes of me in a little bit. But like this season,
I would hope not now.
Yeah, this season she's disappointing me. I wish
Yeah.
hopefully she gets better. But and then Dani, I've always loved her, but like she's being kind of like catty this year.
Yeah, I'm not liking Dani at all this season, unfortunately.
I mean, she's definitely playing for her, I feel like there's not that much evolution in her gameplay. I think she's definitely playing.
No, she's playing well.
Yeah, well, she's playing. I feel like she's playing the same way she did in season 13. The fact that she was like in this alliance, but then at some point she's gonna be like, you know what, I'm just gonna backstab him.
She'll get bored.
You know, yeah.
Allie, I think you got to burn this shirt that Brian is saying you have.
Oh,
Well,
do you really?
The T-shirt I wear is a PJ shirt, but then the other one is just a sweater.
Oh. But yeah, you should probably I don't know if you should still have that after the way Nicole's acting this season. But hey, at least we have only one Nicole we can talk about now. We don't have to say Nicole F every single time.
True.
So I guess that's also a positive. But only other thing I was going to say in terms of Dani is like Big Brother 13, I think that worked for her because she had a Kalia and a Portia. Who is that this season, really? I don't think she has someone like that. Because 13, she was supposed to work with the vets and then realized I don't want to do that and worked with Kalia, Portia, and Shelly. I don't think she has anyone like that this season. So it's like, in theory, because I've heard people say like, oh, Dani's in the best spot. In theory, she is, but at the same time, who is really with her right now? Or is it just she's surviving because she's in a big majority alliance?
Well, that's why I say if they take out Janelle and Kaysar, who are they going to target next? I mean, Dani is a huge threat.
I can see it.
And then there's the mentality of people saying, oh, the old schoolers need to go. Then it's Dani and Memphis next. You know what I mean?
Yep. I agree.
It's so weird to me that she distanced herself from Janelle so much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I get it now, but it's like, if she didn't do that at the very start, we'd be looking at a different game, and I think we'd be looking at more short. And
didn't Nicole say she was like like Janelle was invited to her wedding or something like that?
Dani and Janelle are friends.
I mean, the fact that all that whole drama is happening between the Amazing Race and Rachel, and Melisa, like all of that drama, just wow. I mean, it's incredible.
Not what you would expect. Definitely not what you would have expected in an all-star season. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the way things go next week. We need something to spice things up because it's just not really happening right now. But I guess we'll wrap things up here. So I guess we'll just go around. Allie, the Nicole Franzel stan. What do you want to say before we end things here?
Not this season, but I don't dislike her. I'm just disappointed in her.
Well, thank you, Kevin. No, go ahead.
That's not my name.
I don't know. I mean, you're the one who changed it, so
I did not change that.
Well,
but that's not your name either.
Thank you, Kevin, for bringing us to the conversation. I really, really enjoyed it.
Of course.
At this point, like you said, let's just be hopeful that something happens in the upcoming weeks to change the dynamics.
Manifest it.
Yeah, but God, it's a lot to ask.
Yeah. Thanks so much for organizing this and bringing us all in. It's a great group, and I have to like keep remembering that, when we didn't have a season, I was missing even the upset feelings and the frustrations that come with every Big Brother season. So having a season at all is good, and like there's still hope.
Because there was a point where we weren't going to have this, so it's we should try to relish it.
Honestly, if I'm not going back to work anytime soon, I should apply for BB Can.
Yeah, honestly, I think you should definitely be on that, because then we can talk about it, and if we do a panel for that, we'll just stan you all season, and it'll be great if you're in that, alley. But other than that, guys, that's really it for this week in terms of Big Brother. Let us know what you guys thought this week overall. Left your thoughts on it. Thank you to everyone who was on here, and we will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.
Bye, everyone.